The Lahaina wildfire in Maui, Hawaii, was the fifth deadliest in U.S. history with regard to lives lost. There have been many conspiracy theories as to what caused the fire, to the government or wealthy investors in collusion to destroy the area and buy it at cut-rate prices, and the Chinese government spreading the narrative that a meteorological weapon was responsible for the fire. Then all the parties concerned would be able to purchase the land for pennies on the dollar. But what is the most plausible explanation? Was the government or wealthy investors responsible for the fire? What purpose would they have to destroy land and kill people? What is the most reasonable explanation? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former history professor, Army and Marine Corps veteran, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History. The Lahaina wildfire on Maui was a disaster that may have been possible to avoid. The National Weather Service had previously warned of dry brush and high winds days before the fire, and a no-burn notice had been sent out. Many people and businesses have security cameras, as well as the local government, and one of these picked up an arc flash, which meant that a power line came into contact with combustible material or perhaps another power line, which created the flashpoint. Just after midnight on August 8, 2023, a fire was reported near the Bird Conservation Center near Kula, and evacuation orders were issued. Meanwhile, several miles away, a similar event unfolded in Lahaina, which was later blamed on the outdated utility grid being overloaded. At 5 a.m., the first power outages were reported in Lahaina. Then, at 6:37 a.m., the first brush fires were reported. But 2 minutes later, sensor data stopped coming in. A broken power line was observed coming down at 6:40 a.m. At 9:30 a.m., the wind increased, reportedly reaching 81 miles per hour, spreading flames and smoke. That was when the authorities declared that the grid was effectively down and thousands of people were without power. At 11 a.m., the Maui Fire Department declared the fire was 100% contained. At 2:30 p.m., the wind increased and brought down more power lines, many being captured on video by Lahaina residents. At 3:30 p.m., the fire expanded, but it would be another hour before the fire department openly proclaimed that the fires had started again. Several houses were on fire, cars were exploding, and an elderly housing complex was in its path, with the older residents unable to evacuate. Those who were evacuating by automobile spent hours on the main highway trying to get out, but due to the traffic jam and encroaching fire, many simply jumped into the ocean to avoid the flames. Many people died in their cars, unable to escape. The Coast Guard reported that they rescued 17 people, including 2 children, from the water. The fire reportedly moved at 1 mile per minute, with the temperatures reaching 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Suspended cables and downed electrical lines were strewn across roadways, cutting off what could have been critical routes for escape. Their primary power company, Hawaiian Electric, fell under intense scrutiny for not shutting down the power lines when the high winds created dangerous fire conditions, and especially after the first lines and poles went down. After the event, Hawaiian Electric said, "Both the company and the state are conducting investigations into what happened." Maui had been experiencing high winds from Hurricane Dora in the South Pacific, while it was also dealing with a drought, and wildfires had always been a great concern. These winds fueled the fire. The original investigation found no definitive conclusion with how the ignition started, but noted that the report found the fire caused to be accidental. But criticism of the electric company for not shutting down the power persists and have merit if in fact the power line theory is correct. The initial local and state investigations that followed blamed the deadly fire on the combination of high winds, dry weather, and several fires. However, the fire department's final investigation reported that the widespread destruction was caused by a single fire that started by the undetected re-energization of broken utility lines, which caused sparks that ignited unmaintained vegetation. Maui Fire Chief Bradford Ventura said this during a press conference. According to ABC News, a report has found that broken power lines caused the deadly August 23 wildfire in Maui. The wildfire on the Hawaiian island killed 102 people and destroyed more than 2,200 structures, causing more than $5 billion in damages. Later estimates raised the number of dead to 114. They also cited the nearly 300-page report released Wednesday after the fire comes from the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, which worked with local officials like the County of Maui Department of Fire and Public Safety to determine the cause. The origin of the fire was the overgrown vegetation at and surrounding utility pole 25 off of Lahaina Luna Road. The cause of the fire was the re-energization of broken utility lines, which caused the ejection of molten metallic material, meaning sparks, to fall to the base of pole 25, igniting the unmaintained vegetation below. The investigation also ruled out the possibility that there had been two separate fires. This is in fact only one fire, Ventura said. The federal government also claimed that the fire began as a grass fire of an unknown origin. Some people survived by climbing over the seawall and getting into the ocean. Many did die in their cars, but how and why? Conspiracy theories abounded. Related far-fetched theories have reported that alleged laser beams were programmed not to hit anything blue, explaining why so many blue beach umbrellas were left unscathed by the fires. The conspiracy theories gained momentum due to the fact that the wealthiest homes were left untouched. Then there are the fact that the deaths of that many people being unnecessary, and fingers have been pointed at the first responders, police chief, and mayor. Many residents criticized the police directly, who blocked the road access off Front Street, denying access to the highway where many of the vehicles were trapped and where most of the people lost their lives as their cars were burned, many exploding. The lack of communication between the police and fire departments, as well as conflicting orders, helped create the disaster. One of the more astonishing conspiracy theories was that both the fire and police departments were told to not allow the massive influx of evacuees onto the property of the wealthiest residents. It was proven that police and emergency personnel purposely blocked the evacuation routes so that working-class people could not leave Lahaina proper and reach the sanctuary of higher elevation, stopping them from reaching the areas where the wealthiest properties were located and remained unaffected. Maui Police Chief John Pelletier responded to questions about reported road closures and apparent communications problems as Lahaina residents were trying to escape the fire on August 8th. Why were people contained in a bottleneck on the road? Why were they not allowed to leave and reach more safe, wealthy areas? Those who ignored the police and fire department barricades, preventing people from getting near the billionaire-owned properties, survived. Many of those who disobeyed and remained died trapped on the road. One commentator said, "As a firefighter for the last 30 years, as well as fire investigator-inspector, I am appalled at this entire operation. I have heard real witnesses' accounts that anyone could listen to of people being directed into Front Street. This police chief should be fired, the mayor fired, the governor fired. Allow people to come in that care about the people and want to help. I would 100% come to help Maui get to the bottom of this." One person posted on social media, quote, "Lawyer here. Police chief still says not using sirens was a good idea. What about turning water off but keeping electricity on, blocking escape roads, and sending children home from school with instructions to shelter in place? This calls for criminal negligence prosecutions for all the decision makers." Conspiracy theorists on varying platforms have claimed the fires were planned as part of a strategic effort to weed out less wealthy residents on Maui and make room for multi-million-dollar developments. Some people claim that laser beams were to blame. As we mentioned before, one witness claimed this was a direct energy weapon assault. Many people believe this to be the method for the destruction, but are they reasonable? According to Renee DiResta, a research manager at Stanford University who studies misinformation, people often look for a way to make sense of the world when they are anxious or have a feeling of powerlessness. Theories that attribute the cause of a crisis to a specific bad actor offer a villain to blame, someone to potentially hold responsible. The conspiracy theories that are the most effective and plausible are usually based on some grain of truth and connect to some existing set of beliefs around the world. For example, someone who distrusts the government may be more inclined to believe someone who posts negatively about a government agency. Other rumors alleged that the elite and wealthy Maui residents were behind the fires so that they could buy the destroyed land at a discount price and rebuild a smart city and expand their investment portfolios. National Public Radio reported, "There was the one about the government. In some versions it was the U.S., in others a foreign government, using energy beam weapons to start the fire. Others blamed Oprah, meaning Oprah Winfrey, the wealthy media mogul, and falsely claimed she was making a land grab. Still others claimed the fires were a cover-up for military malfeasance." They also reported the theory that there was a niche narrative that this was the beginning of turning Maui into a smart city. Kyle Van Fleet stated this. This is referring to the other conspiracy theory. This one claims efforts intended to reduce traffic and increase walkability are actually a plot by governments to use climate change as a pretext to turn cities into open-air prisons. One YouTube posting stated, "You're telling me that these cheaper lower middle-class houses burnt down directly across the street and all of the mansions are still standing?" referencing aerial imagery taken of the destruction. Some celebrities were even accused of being involved in the premeditated destruction, such as Oprah Winfrey. But Oprah jumped into the fray to help. Oprah stated, "At each hub, I asked people to tell me what they needed. I'm just trying to stay open and flexible. I'm just trying to provide and be open wherever possible. Each day presents itself with a new set of challenges and obstacles to try to overcome." Another person posted, "Oprah, you have 1,000 acres. Lahaina is 1,600 acres. You could give up only half your acreage and provide housing for probably all of the displaced residents. There's a simple solution. The land you bought was illegally sold because it is illegally occupied. This is the right thing to restore justice." Well, removing hyperbole, what was the federal government and the FEMA response? The U.S. Small Business Administration has approved more than $396 million in federal disaster loans for Hawaiian businesses, nonprofits, and residents impacted by the Maui wildfires. In addition, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, ergo FEMA, has approved a one-year extension of the Individuals and Households Program, including financial assistance and direct temporary housing assistance for survivors of the Maui wildfires. Critical Needs Assistance provided a one-time payment of $700 to address immediate needs such as food, water, and clothing, but critics point to the fact that $1.4 billion in FEMA funds that were directed to assist liberal cities with the massive illegal alien influx drained taxpayer funds from FEMA that should have been set aside for American citizens. The same criticism was stated in our preliminary video on Hurricane Helene. Despite the denials of the federal government, their own website, the White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre, even stated in 2022 that these funds were being made available for illegals. Recently, she denied that fact, forgetting she uttered the truth 2 years ago. In addition, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas admitted under oath that FEMA was running out of money because of the massive support given to the illegal immigrant invasion created by the Biden-Harris administration. Democrats argue that the money in FEMA was not used for illegals. However, they admitted, and it is a matter of record, that they took money out of FEMA to create an account to assist them. Mayorkas admitted this also. The people of Maui are still reeling from the Great Fire, which killed many and destroyed even more lives. But people are slowly putting their lives back together. The $3 billion in federal support is still coming in, which drained resources from the victims of Hurricane Helene. It looks like the illegal aliens have not suffered. Legendary musician Mick Fleetwood, who moved to Maui 25 years ago and was in Los Angeles when he lost his restaurant and heard the news that his restaurant Fleetwood's on Front Street, which had operated for 11 years on Front Street in Lahaina, chartered a plane with supplies for the residents along with a friend. They went to work helping his 100 employees, all of whom survived, find shelter and start their lives over. Fleetwood said in a Sky News interview, "I did not lose my family, I did not lose my house, so I am quite lucky. The town will be rebuilt, one way or another, but not now." When asked what he thought about big companies buying up the devastated land, he said, "That would be abhorrent. The whole town of Lahaina is no more." We hope the survivors on Maui, as well as those from Helene, can put their lives back together. In October 2023, ABC News, not exactly a reliable source, said the number was revised from 385 missing down to 66. However, initially in Maui, between 1,300 and 1,400 people have been reported as missing. Some estimates are that over 1,000 children alone have not been found. We still do not have an exact number of those missing from Helene. The federal government has not been very forthcoming in either disaster regarding casualties. As of September 2nd, 2023, the reports are that more than 2,200 structures were in fact destroyed across 2,170 acres in the Lahaina fire, according to an August 12th estimate of the damage from the Pacific Disaster Center and Federal Emergency Management Agency, featuring on the Maui Now. In the town of Kula, 678 acres were affected by the fire in the area. According to the agencies, the locals fear that there was a conspiracy to devalue the property and make it uninhabitable for those living there, forcing a short sale, with billionaires waiting in the wings. According to Forbes, as of now, 37 billionaires who make up 0.0003 of the population own 5% of all Hawaiian land, 11% being non-government-owned land, roughly 218,000 acres. Here are just a few. This increased tension between poor locals and the wealthy speculators, with Oprah Winfrey buying almost 900 acres that she paid $6.6 million for, added to her 1,300 acres that she already owned for over 2 decades. People grew suspicious after Winfrey's property was unscathed in the disaster. She did provide $10 million of her own money to assist in the relief efforts. Billionaire and Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison bought 97% of Lanai, about 87,000 acres, for $300 million, and built luxury hotels, but locals complain that they cannot build affordable housing. AOL co-founder and Hawaii state native Steve Case holds 57,000 acres, not including his 35,000-acre farm on Kauai, which is leased out for sustainable development projects. One theory is that he also wants to buy the burnt-out locations. Mark Zuckerberg paid around $145 million and is building a 1,450-acre private walled-off security cattle farm on Kauai. Jeff Bezos owns a sprawling ranch mansion in Maui. So are wealthy vultures trying to buy burnt-out Maui on the cheap. Right after the fire, residents told USA Today that developers had approached them with offers to buy their property, and it added to the anxiety and grief of losing their homes, animals, and loved ones. Hawaii Governor Josh Green issued the emergency proclamation on August 19th, laying out explicitly that making any unsolicited offer to an owner of real property located in the areas encompassed by United States postal zip codes 96761, 96767, and 96790 on the island of Maui to purchase or otherwise acquire any interest in the real property is prohibited. Stay tuned on this. If we receive more credible updates, just as with Hurricane Helene, we will post another video. Thank you for watching this episode of Forgotten History. If you liked what you saw, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you would like to assist with the ever-increasing cost of production, please consider becoming a channel member and joining our Patreon page. Please check out our merchandise store. And thanks for watching.